Okay, I apologize for the technical difficulties.
But Henry, Matt's in as a attendee, so you should probably promote him.
Yep. Yep.
I'm going to need a better link.
Okay, great. All right, I apologize, everybody, for the technical difficulties. We're at the stage of courtesy of the floor. So if you'd like to speak, please raise your hand. And when you do get called on, please give us your name and your address. So Henry, I'll leave that to you.
Oh, we have someone in person.
Oh,
Good afternoon. Patty Steinschneider, 329 Broadway, Dobbs Ferry, New York. This has been an interesting meeting. The news has been overwhelming these last couple of days with the tragedy that's been caused in the Midwest by tornadoes. Much of the intensity of this superstorm of tornadoes has been attributed to climate change. We in the Dobbs Ferry in Westchester County got a taste of how the intensity of storms is changing due to climate change after Ida, although thankfully at a fraction of the damage and loss of life that has been experienced in Kentucky. We all need to put time and effort into being prepared for what promises to be superstorms increasing in intensity and frequency in the future. The county has set tomorrow as the last day for comments in response to the hazard mitigation plan that it has prepared for basically all the communities in the county. This was a heroic effort to avoid the communities in the county from losing the benefits and support of FEMA. We should all thank Elisa Fossman and Richard Line for taking on the task of representing Dobbs Ferry in this effort. I'm sure it was not very much fun, but it was very important. As a member of the Sustainability Task Force, I have read the documents, which I assume most of you have done as well. I hope we can all agree that Westchester County's Hazard Mitigation Plan 2021 is well done, thorough, and easy to understand, if a bit scary at times. There are a number of things that I want to point out that give me confidence that the 2021 plan has taken some important and appropriate steps to help us be safer and better prepared. The first thing that I think is critical and a positive change from the 2015 plan is that the 2021 plan details recommendations for incorporating the plan into other planning mechanisms, such as our comprehensive plan, our emergency response plan, our capital improvement program, and our village code. The 2021 plan makes it clear that it is not intended to be a dust collector, but as a document to be used when we are figuring out our village budget and what projects should happen in our village. The new strat plan identifies implementable actions rather than strategies, with enough information to serve as the basis for policy and funding decisions, and represents measurable impacts on resiliency and mitigation progress. Quoting from the 2021 plan, strategies provide direction, but actions are fundable under grant programs. In other words, instead of being satisfied with the right words, the plan will not allow us to be satisfied until we do the right things. If I have a minor disagreement with the language in the 2021 plan, and I think it's excusable, it is that the word mitigation is used too many times when the real action proposed and needed is adaptation. We need to do things that will strengthen our systems and harden our infrastructure. Again, this is about really taking action and changing how, why, and where things are done. If I have a fear, it is that too many people assume that this will be done by somebody else. To make Dobbs Ferry a safer, more resilient, healthy, and happier place to live, we're going to need to do the heavy lifting ourselves as a community. And many of you know some of the other hats that I wear. And when I talk about this in other places, one of my taglines is that the people in a community need to be prepared. We need to act as if we understand that no one will be coming to save us. Of course, as we are seeing in the tragedies in Kentucky, there are the agencies like FEMA and the Red Cross that have an important hand in helping. But the real difference comes from the first responders on the ground in the place that is hit. We are lucky in Dobbs Ferry to have an excellent police department an amazing fire department, and often heroic DPW. When we get hit by superstorms, these people are ready, willing, and able to step into harm's way to save us. But the important theme that weaves its way through the 2021 county plan is that we all have to be prepared. We all have to recognize the need to take the steps, invest in the improvements, and make the changes that will reduce risk and damage. And that will make us more resilient, and that will help Dobbs Ferry be sustainable. Also strongly present in the 2021 county plan is the fact that the boundaries are often that are found on a map for municipalities are seldom recognized by storm events. Neighbors have to respond to neighbors, villages need to respond to villages, towns need to respond to towns, and counties need to respond to counties. I found it encouraging that the Westchester County 2021 plan did not limit the issues, threats, risks, and necessary actions to the Westchester boundaries. It acknowledges how very interconnected we all are. Following from this, though, is the one thing that I think the 2021 plan is light on. It addresses every physical situation, assessing the level of risk and potential cost to life and property, but I don't think it goes far enough in its assessment of the challenges we are likely to experience when catastrophic events affect the life, safety, and comfort of people and places that are a distance from us, but in desperate need of help. How should Dobbs Ferry prepare itself to provide safe refuge for people who are seeking safe harbor? 85% of the world's population lives in a place that will be affected by climate change. Places like Dobbs Ferry, most of Westchester, are in relative safety, but there are other places that will cease to exist maybe sooner than we are ready. There is an article in this past Saturday's New York Times about the construction of a black box for Earth in Tasmania. Like a black box on a plane, this is where it is going to listen to what we say and do. It will create an archive that could be critical to piecing together the missteps should humanity be destroyed by climate change. What struck me most about this article was that it was on page 8. Seems like kind of an important, interesting concept. The Sustainability Task Force has prepared a list of priorities that it is ready, willing, and able to engage with in the effort to strengthen the village's hazard mitigation plan. This should be part of our effort as a village to make the 2021 county report a living document instead of a dust collector.
Patty, you're way over, Patty. You're almost done.
I know, I got this much. You can't see through the microphone. Two sentences.
Okay.
And here's the thing I'm asking you to do. My hope and my ask is that the village of Dobbs Ferry confirm its support for the 2021 Westchester County Hazard Mitigation Plan by comment before the deadline tomorrow. Again, thank you to Lisa. Thank you to Richard. Thanks.
Thank you, Patty. And again, I know that Richard and Lisa have worked on that very hard. So thank you. Anybody else for courtesy of the floor?
I just have 2 people with their hands raised.
Okay.
Kathy, can you hear us? Okay. Kathy?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great, thank you. This is Kathy DeBerry from the Cookery and the Parlor, here with David as well. First, we just want to quickly say we are very grateful to the board for extending parklets through this winter. Yesterday, we received approval from the building department to proceed with our plans to winterize the Cookery parklet, and we're going to submit plans to winterize the Parlor parklet later this week. On the topic of fees, as we've previously stated, we are willing to pay the winter parklet fees that the board deems reasonable, fair, and appropriate. What we feel is reasonable and fair, for now at least, are fees equal to what the village has budgeted per spot per month. We understand this to be $83 per month or $166 for 2 spots. To charge restaurants $250 per spot or $500 for 2 spots is to charge restaurants 3 times what the village budgeted per spot. Perhaps there's a happy medium somewhere between $83 the $83 budgeted amount and the $250 proposed fee per spot, of course. Our proposal is somewhere between, $125 and $150 per spot. Regardless of what is decided for the winter season, we do hope that parklets will be a thing for all of 2022 and perhaps beyond, not just because we love them, but also because we believe the community at large does as well.
Oh, thank you, Kathy, and stay tuned because we're talking about parklets next. So thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the courtesy. Please identify yourself. Hello. Hello.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. This is Michelle Adams from the Chamber.
Oh, okay. Hey, Michelle.
I'm just calling to ask if you all received the email that I sent yesterday. Is that a no?
I didn't see any email.
I did not receive an email.
Okay. I meant to submit it as for the board to see before the meeting. It's a list of questions that we have in regards to the fee, just the gist of it. There was kind of a back and forth with our rep who's on vacation this week. What we really wanted was a meeting to be part of the discussion of the fee, which we were not invited to. And when we were made aware of what the fee is, there's still a list of questions we would like answered pertaining to how the $250 was decided on. So I was hoping that in your discussion, you could raise these questions and find answers to them.
Okay.
Do you want me to list the questions?
How many questions are there, Michelle?
Hold on, I'm gonna pull up the email.
I have
think
it.
there's, okay.
There's 8 of them.
I did,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Let me just say, we haven't made a decision about the fees yet. So, but go ahead, tell us what you think we should be addressing.
So hold on, I'm just gonna pull it up in my email so I can read them.
And I had
Sorry.
also, I'm forwarding the email, but she did send it to Liz Draper at like 2 o'clock. So I have it on my personal email, but I'll send it to everybody too.
Sorry, I have to go through all of these emails.
Okay.
Perhaps Shari can read them for us.
Yeah.
Sure.
You have them?
Sure, yes, I can do it. Okay, may we see the breakdown of costs for the barriers? It's our understanding that those were mostly paid for in the first year, which is the reason the fee was set to $250 that year. 2, may we see the breakdown of costs for DPW staff time relating to setting up and breaking down the barriers? Does this work occur during normal work hours or does it involve overtime? May we see the 2022 budget projections for parking spaces in the downtown only, not the parking lots? May we see the current 2021 income from the downtown parking spaces, not parking lots, compared to 2021 projections? May we see income versus projected budget for the past 5 years of parking spaces in the downtown, once again, not including parking lots? May we have a count of how many barriers were used for the Parklet program in 2021 versus how many were purchased in 2020? What is the planned use for the unused barriers, if any? Will barriers be sold if they go unused? And finally, may we see a detail of snow removal costs that increased due to the Parklet spaces?
Okay.
Sorry, was that a FOIL request? No, I'm serious.
No,
No? Okay.
no, it's not.
All right,
It's
all
not a
right.
FOIL request, but
All
there's
right.
been, since the initial discussion, in the spring, we were kind of led to believe that if these kinds of things come up again, that there should be kind of a pre-discussion. And when we reached out for that, it didn't happen.
It's not true.
And we
I spoke to the
really,
chamber. That's not true. I spoke to the chamber director over a month ago, and I told her that the time was coming up and the time is now. So they didn't submit anything. I told her what my thoughts were on the fee, and it's only a recommendation. The board hasn't even spoken about it yet. So this is what you've asked for. Excuse me, what you've asked for, what you've asked for, what you've asked for is more in the nature of a FOIL request. And if you want to treat it as such, you should submit it as such. You're asking for the village to give you a privilege to operate in the right of way on public land. So you're asking for a license. So
okay.
you're asking for the village, you're asking for the, excuse me, you're asking for the village, excuse me, you're asking for the village to do something.
Listen, both of you, listen, we want to just move on to the subject and get it resolved. So why don't we just hold where we are? Is there anybody else, Henry, who has their hand up for courtesy of the floor?
No, sir.
Okay, so let's close courtesy of the floor. Let's move to our next topic. The topic is a discussion of the Parklet program. So we've had, and I'm going to ask, Kathy, and I don't know if Michelle's still on or not, just to, don't say anything unless we ask you to say something, or you could, because this is a discussion among the staff and the trustees to set a rate. And let me just say, we all want the restaurants to succeed. No one is doing this to make money. But we do have to, we are charged with using public property and for private use. So it is a serious situation that we have to address, even though we do want the parklets to succeed and the restaurants to succeed. So we're going to discuss it and come up with a number that we think will satisfy the law and make it feasible for the restaurant. So I just want to, before we do that, I just want to say, Laura Lee, as far as the legality of the parklets, where do we stand on that?
Okay, my advice and recommendation has not changed. It is an unconstitutional gift to provide reserved use of public property for the benefit of a single private citizen. So that hasn't changed. In addition to that, highway law prohibits assigning on-street parking to individuals to the exclusion of the public. That being said, the village would need to establish an appropriate governmental purpose and intent that could be fulfilled on a temporary basis by a license agreement with very strict parameters, including the right of the village to suspend the license at their discretion in the interest of public policy. That hasn't changed. So let me just make it clear that the liquor authority has extended the licensed premises to the street on a temporary basis. That is not the law. It's a temporary rulemaking which exists. It may or may not become the law. We don't know. In addition to that, you have to be able to provide for the public to have access. And if you cannot do that, you must only license by obtaining a fair market value for the provision for the benefit of a private entity. So that's where we are. We have discussed in the past that the parklets are a benefit. You'll need to continue to determine that that's a valid governmental interest. And you need to determine what the fair market value is for the licensed use, very temporary scenario of those spaces to the detriment of the public at large.
Okay, thank you, Laura Lee. So I think and someone could correct me if I'm wrong, I think as the majority of the board believes that it is a valuable, it is to the helpful for the village. It is a public benefit to encourage parklets and work with parklets. So I think we've passed that threshold. The next question is, what's the value of that? Now, we have heard that, and Jeff can correct me, and Richard could correct me, is the $83 per spot what we have in our budget?
$83 per spot per, I don't know where that number came from. It wasn't from me.
Okay.
It did come from that. It was that $250,000 was budgeted for parking revenue from 250 spaces, which is about 1,000 per space per year, which is $83.33 per month.
That was an estimate, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's $9 a day, Monday through Saturday. It's, the meters don't run during the weekend. Obviously, not every meter is in use 9 hours a day, Monday through Saturday.
I guess there's also a question of, is it just the parking revenue that needs to be reimbursed? Or is there also a need to reimburse the village for this, as Laura Lee said, for the single use, for the use of these spaces by a single person 24/7?
Yes, that's the value you have to place on the licensed use for a private entity to use public property. So it goes beyond the revenue, it goes beyond the detriment to the other members of the public, and you have to weigh that against the benefit. It's a fine line we walk, and I'm willing to go there and draft it for you and get the license agreements in place, but you need to determine after discussion what you would consider a fair market value for the exclusive use of on-street parking to the detriment of the public at large. Beyond the 9 hours where the
I have a question.
Well, let Shari go ahead. She had her hand up first.
Yeah. So I would argue, I'm not an attorney, but I don't play one on TV either, but I would argue that the parklets are a benefit to the entire community. And while it is the restaurant setting it up, it brings people to the village. It allows people to be together. It allows people to congregate, and it sets a tone. And the restaurants, as many of the businesses, have really suffered over the last couple of years. And we have great restaurants in town. We don't have great retail in town. People come to Dobbs Ferry, not people in Dobbs Ferry, but people come to Dobbs Ferry for these restaurants that we have. And we want to, I think, encourage that. We want people to come to our village and see what a great village it is and do this. And we don't want to create any more hurdles for these small business owners. This is not PepsiCo and Dannon and MasterCard. These are small business owners. The margin for success in the restaurant business is a very, very tight margin. Most restaurants fail. We're very lucky that we have restaurants here with some longevity and reputation. And I think it would behoove us to appear to be more friendly to the business owners and not see it as just something that benefits them. It's a benefit to me if I can go to the cookery in December, quite frankly. So I think that the word benefit could be applied in different ways. Yes, that they're private businesses, but they are part of our community, a very important part of our community. And so I see the benefit as being community-wide.
Right. So and the board has agreed to that. And
Right. So what I'm saying is I think that creating, if we know that a parking meter, even if someone's parking it all day long, is $9 a day, or I don't think that we should be sitting here trying to gouge them, because the meters end at 6 o'clock anyway. And I just think that we have an opportunity here to help these businesses, and the difference between $100 a month, if it's something that makes the restaurants feel like we're on their side because we cut it by $100 a month, I think that's an opportunity for goodwill.
Right, so we have to figure out a value. So Matt, you had something you wanted to add or ask?
Yeah, I noticed today as I was driving in the village that a lot of the parklets seem to have disappeared. Do we have any sense of how many spaces parklets intend to, or that are intended to be used for parklets going forward?
I believe it's just
Winter 4.
cookery and the parlor.
That's just for the winter. We don't know what will happen again in the spring, but for the winter, it's just the cookery and parlor, so it's 4 spaces.
So
Gotcha.
the original agreement expired November, and we extended an additional month so that the 2 businesses that wanted to continue could have some time to set up, and we could have some time to discuss. And now here we are. So there's just the 2 restaurants, 4 parking spaces that want to continue through the winter. When the spring rolls around again, we'll probably
We'll have to take it up again.
Applications.
Okay. Is there a, I've been to the cookery, I've been to the parlor a lot. Is there a net change in capacity? Are the parklets making up for a loss of capacity indoors, or are the parklets additive to capacity?
They're adding to capacity. When it was originally designed, the governor's executive order denied interior dining. So now they are a net increase in the capacity of the restaurants. But originally, they were designed to assist the restaurants to keep in business and to continue to serve.
But as of today, they are allowing the restaurants to serve more clientele. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just trying to get things straight so I can make a little calculation in my head. The restaurants have larger capacity, can serve more clientele. Therefore, there's more revenue being generated. It's not just making up for lost revenue, it's additional revenue. Am I wrong about that? I see Larry.
I'm shaking my head because I think it's a lot more complicated than that. I think there are a number of, well, certainly restaurants have not had the same level of business, A, and B, there are people who would be uncomfortable eating inside, who would eat outside. And so you're basically excluding, people from being able to eat. I think it would be, everybody seems to agree parklets would be a good thing. So what we're trying to do, I think, here is put a price on this. Jeff, where do we stand in terms of paying for the barriers and in terms of the cost from the DPW's perspective for putting out and taking in the barriers?
Excuse me, the barriers would have been paid last year. And the DPW typically did install and deinstall those during the day. But that does take them away from doing other things.
So just to be clear, at the last meeting, you asked myself and Lori Lee to make a financial analysis to come up with some numbers that were fair market value. That's all I was trying to do. And I took a combination of the loss of rental on the parking spaces, amortized the price of the barriers over 5 years, and also the cost of that the DPW incurred in making the installations. And the numbers came in around $500 or $500 for a two barrier parklet, which was identical to what you charged in 2020. So it was nothing arbitrary about it. And also, just to clarify, you already set the winter parklet fee. This discussion was to be for the spring. So, and so all we did is come up with the numbers, as best. It's only from the perspective that we had, which was adding everything together. And then after that, it's up to you all to ameliorate them or change them as you deem appropriate based on the benefit. But I'm not advocating one way or the other, but you also haven't, you haven't calculated in what's the loss to a retail or to another restaurant that doesn't have a parklet when their customers can't park as close to the business. I mean, there's all kinds of factors here. A lot of them are intangible and impossible to put a dollar amount on. So just trying to push the issue to a point where everybody's in a place that you find acceptable.
I just have
I have a question on the parklet fee. What did we set for the winter parklet fee? I thought we just set it through December.
We did.
You gave it for the month. I thought you gave it through the month of December to come up with a fee and a rate moving forward, which I thought was the spring, but.
No, I
No,
thought
it was-
I thought it was from January to the spring.
It was from
Right.
January through March.
I stand corrected.
And didn't Jeff, did you say that the barriers were already paid for, or did I mishear you?
Yeah, the barriers are here and were paid for.
They're paid
yes.
for, so we're not looking at the cost of the barriers anymore. That's done, correct?
Well, I mean, the village paid for the barriers. That doesn't mean that.
Right,
they-
but-
yeah.
But I'm saying, but it's done. The money was spent. So it's not like we're renting them, right?
No, but it came out of other sources, right? And so that, while it was paid for, then the money that came in for parklets would
Right.
not necessarily have covered the amount of the barriers. Is that the case, Jeff? Yes.
Yeah, did
That's
it?
correct. That's correct.
Yeah, and we bought the barriers for the parklets specifically.
Yes.
So it's sort of it's not really the case that those barriers were paid for by the parklet fees. I think if that's what you're getting at, that did not happen.
Did
No,
not-
but what were the parklet fees that were received versus what the barriers cost? And are you saying that the village doesn't use those barriers for anything else? So you wouldn't use them to block a street for Fairy Festa, or you wouldn't?
That's right, but that's not really the question that we have to ask ourselves. I think Mr. Lyons laid out the issue, and so did Ms. Dickerson. Is that what is the ongoing market rate for these things, irrespective of those other questions? I realize that they're interesting to weigh, but they're really not the question that we have to answer. And I think that it's a fairly reasonable analysis that was done by Mr. Lyons to come up with a number for parking revenue, some amount relating to DPW, and some amount relating to the cost of the equipment, capital outlay at the beginning of the program. And to be perfectly honest, I think $250 is not a very large number for additional seating in a restaurant. It seems like a perfectly reasonable number to me. We've all established it is a public benefit to have these, and we want to keep doing them, and we want to promote them, and we want to allow applicants to make them winterize them and to make them beautiful. But I think that we just have an obligation not to turn them over for free. And I think $250.
To be clear, it's not $250 a month, it's $250 a spot. So most of them have two, so it's $500 a month. Just to be clear. But
$250 a spot per spot. I'm talking about.
Right, but I'm saying, and most of the
we need
restaurants have
units.
two. Right, and most of the restaurants have two, Sam's.
Or
has
if you have
three.
three or you have four, whatever it is, it doesn't matter.
Right.
The point is we're analyzing on a per spot basis.
Okay.
We
so
analyze the
before we-
market rate, and that's per spot. Then we talk about per spot.
Before we make a decision on the 250, I'm going to let Kathy speak, but Kathy, please, address, the issue that you already have not discussed. You can let Kathy speak.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I think we're good. We're going to let you guys, do your thing, but thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, Kathy. Okay, so what I'd
Just-
like,
Can I just say something, Vinny? Because Christy's not here anymore, and I think she had articulated a different point of view on what the fair market value would be. And I think I personally think it's a fair analysis. So I just want to put it out there for the whole board. She had done it based, like, instead of looking at the actual loss, more about the potential revenue using that $250,000 number and expected revenue. So $83 per month per spot in expected meter revenue. And then I think Richard had calculated some barrier costs and labor costs, which was $22.50 and $62.50. And so it gets us to about like $168 a month. In addition to the detriments that Richard and Laura Lee mentioned, she also noted, which I agree with, that there was an added value of inviting atmosphere outdoor, having al fresco dining in the village, the health benefits of continuing to dine outdoors, and the financial benefits to the restaurants. She had suggested $125 a month. I mean, I'm okay with 150 a month. I think that's fair per spot. It'd be 300 per restaurant. And I think that's similar to where we've been in the past with this. And I do think it's a fair market value, especially considering there's more than ample parking in the village, even with the loss of these 4 spots, considering 99 Cedar, you might not be able to park exactly where you want and walk right next door to where you're going. But between Village Hall and the other lot behind Sushi Mike's and 99 Cedar, I don't think the loss of these 4 spots is so detrimental to the restaurants or the other businesses.
But when you say it's consistent, and Richard clarified, in the past, it was $250 a spot during last year, right?
2020, my understanding was it was 250 a spot.
Right. And then during the winter, during the fall, we let it go to 100 a month, I think. But we had it at 250 a spot, correct?
And what you establish as fair market value now will have a major bearing on if you are able, again, you have to reassess in March, if you are able to continue this through the season, then you need to just be careful that you're not discounting since it's only 4 spots. That you need to know what the fair market value is as a board, and that I just caution you that sort of creating this ability to sort of market against yourselves is not evidence of fair market value. There needs to be a basis for that. And I do recall seeing the email from Christie, and she did make a valid point or a number of points, but whatever you really agree to at this point, you really should be consistent in the spring, should the parklets then be available again.
I don't remember going as high as 250. I mean, if I have a faulty memory, I don't remember going that high. Per space, maybe it was 250 for 2 spots. I don't remember doing 250 per spot. I don't think Rarebit was spending $750 a month or $1,000 a month.
I think that's what we decided for this temporary period, Nicole, for this last month or whatever it's been for the extension, and then we were going to revisit the longer term.
I know, but what did we do last year?
How much are we charging right now for these spaces?
For not right now, if we did something, tell me what did we charge last year when we did them?
I think I have an email that says 250.
What's the license agreement say?
Yeah.
I inquired of that, and I was told it was 250 a space in 2020. It's as best as I have.
I remember a lot of
That's
debates
what I
about that.
remember.
Christine negotiated that down.
We
So
we negotiated down from 400. It was much higher. It was like 400 or 500. That was the initial thought, and then we negotiated. I believe we negotiated. We came down to 250, and then last year, this was initially 2020, and then last year we reduced it further as part of another.
Jeff, I think Jeff was doing the billing for this, and at one point there was a sheet of what was owed. That would Jeff, do you have, or Richard, do you have the specifics of that? Because I think there were some restaurants that were in arrears, and
Yeah, the restaurants for the most part are caught up. This past several months, it's been $50 a month per spot. Before, my recollection is the 250. I remember specifically one in my head that had 3 spots was billed $750.
Okay, so let's just move this along and see how because we can be arguing back and forth among ourselves. So is there a majority who feel, and I'm going to ask you this is just a straw vote, okay? So is there you can just raise your hand if you feel that 250 is the appropriate amount. Okay, that's the majority, but okay, so I guess, is there anybody else you want to make a decision, make any kind of argument or discussion before we just move forward on it? Yes, Sharon.
It's my understanding that Hastings doesn't charge anything for what they've done. And Hastings also doesn't charge for parking during Christmas. And I just, now Hastings going to opt in. I feel like there's a lot of reasons for people to go to Hastings or Tarrytown or all these other places. And we want to make Dobbs Ferry as appealing as possible. And the way to do that is to be friendlier to our business partners and in the community. And I think that whether Chef DeBerry can pay the $250 a spot or not is not necessarily the question, because it is just setting a precedent for going forward. And I think that Nicole just laid out something that made a lot of sense and was really based in the reality and not what we think is fair, but based on the reality of what the meters bring in. And quite frankly, if the restaurants decide to leave, there'll be plenty of parking, because that's really what.
Shari, what number would you put on it, Shari?
I think the 150 is a fair, especially we're talking about the winter months where we'll be lucky to, it's not like there's going to have a ton of people sitting outside, but if they could even get a few more customers to come, that could help them. And like Laura said, I mean, we don't know exactly what's going to happen moving forward. It looks like this is here to stay. And if you go into Manhattan, everything looks almost permanent of what all those restaurants have done in the city. So we just want to be prepared for making it as easy as possible for restaurants to succeed and for more restaurants to open.
Larry,
I think, while not disagreeing with the pure analytics of the 250 necessarily, I'm not sure that it fully recognizes the benefits to the village. And that's one of the reasons why I would be, comfortable with a lower number than the 250.
What number?
Anywhere, between, I think 150 and 200 would be a number to me that would be fair, that would recognize the value to residents, in addition to the analytics.
Nicole, what number? Can't hear you.
I think 150 is fair. But if we're in the minority, we're in the minority. I mean,
no, it was just
I made
a
the
straw,
pitch.
that was just a straw poll to see where we were on it. It wasn't an actual vote, and I encourage.
It will be shortly, Vinny. Straw poll's not that far off from the real vote.
Oh, wait, I have a question. So Lori Lee, spoke about wanting to be consistent, and I do hear Shari's point that in the winter it's not going to be as full as in the summertime. So I don't know exactly how to balance that, but I do think it needs to be a little more expensive, a little harder to just take up a spot in the warmer months when, because otherwise, if we set a low price now and that's the price forever, there will be no reason, whether it's necessary or not, for the businesses to take up sidewalk spot, increase their capacity, increase their profits by increasing capacity. And I don't think that's necessarily a thing that the village is in need of investing in, subsidizing that to happen. So if there's a lower fee for the winter time, and there's only 2 restaurants that we know are gonna do it, I feel better about a lower fee now and creating a higher barrier to taking up a lot of spots during the summer when everybody's going to want to be increasing their capacity out on the sidewalks.
And can I just say it's almost the opposite, because in your winter months, you're increasing the likelihood that the DPW staff will need to participate in snow removal. We can't have the Parklet licensees out in the right of way shoveling snow away from their barriers. So if anything, the winter months will the village will incur more costs potentially associated with the maintenance and the upkeep of these parklets. I know in the past, we've asked the licensees to take advantage and be responsible for cleaning debris from the neighboring parking spaces, but we can't take on the risk of having them standing in the right of way. They have no basis to stop traffic, and we have the chief here, and I'm sure he would agree with that. So if anything, the winter months, you'll incur more costs potentially because you're using DPW staff to have to shovel by hand areas which they would just sweep clean with their plows. That's my 2 cents.
Okay, I think we have to really move this along. So I totally get everyone's argument, and like I said, it was just a straw poll. If the majority feels that we can go to one, and this is what I wanted to avoid last time, but if do we want to take a formal vote on a dollar amount, and is it 150, 200? Mike, how do you feel about it?
I think the $250 number seems reasonable to me. I think it doesn't show a lack of support for businesses. I think that is an unreasonable position. I think we want to continue this program. We have been very supportive of all the businesses. We've addressed this numerous times. I'd like to just set a number and then not have to discuss it every 3 months. Because it doesn't make sense to do that. And I think we've gotten some pretty clear advice. I think the number's quite reasonable.
Donna?
I agree with Michael. The restaurants are now able to go to capacity. I know the argument about, some people still want to eat outside, but the structures that are being built are enclosures. You're not eating outside. And, when the businesses were really struggling, we did lower it to the $50. And now that the businesses are coming back, and I understand, they have suffered, but I also know that a number of these businesses have received quite a lot of reimbursements from the government, which really shouldn't into our calculations necessarily, but I don't think there is a pressing need to reduce a fair market value at this time. So I would be okay with the 250.
Matt?
I'm okay with the 250.
Okay. Let's vote on the 250. How many people feel that 250 is the appropriate price?
Have a motion.
Do I need a formal motion for this?
Yes, I would take a motion, please.
Okay, is there a motion to assess the price of $250 per spot with a maximum of 2 spots for the Parklet program during the winter program going forward? Trustee Cassell, second trustee Rosenberg, all in favor? Okay, that passes 4-3.
And I just want to reiterate that we are fully supporting the Parklets. I mean, I agree, this is a benefit to the village, but the 250 I still think is fair to everybody.
I agree with Michael that I don't want to be discussing this every 3 months. So we should maybe next meeting or 2 meetings from now, set up something for the spring so that the businesses know what the Parklets will be and what the maximum number and the cost of it. So we're not doing it again in March or April.
Well, the only difficulty with that is that I think, we're not necessarily going to be sure of what direction the pandemic is taking, which may affect our decision.
Right.
But
I mean, we can always change
can
it
be
again.
revisited if there's new information, you can revisit a
We
decision.
certainly could do that.
Okay, let's move to action item number 2, which is a PSA for the Youth Service Council. We received a estimate from Gina LaFay to Jonathan Kleiman, who is a part of the Youth Service Council. This is for a public service announcement that they're going to work on. They've done this in the past, and we received documentation for it and supporting the fees for it. So is there a motion to approve the expenditure for the Youth Service Council?
Mr. Mayor, it's coming out of the grant funds. It's not general funds.
Yeah, that was good. I asked.
That's my question.
Yeah.
I should have made that clear. Sorry. So,
Yep.
And I assume there has been some significant diligence. I don't know, nor would I, this person's qualifications.
They've been used with the PSAs in the past 2 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yep.
They're great. They've done a great job on these PSAs.
Yeah, the historical ones have been great.
Yeah.
They actually signed an agreement last year, which I drafted for them. So it's, would be the similar thing, professional services agreement.
okay, so is there a motion? Trustee Sullivan, second trustee Patino, all in favor? That passes unanimously. Second item is the discussion item is the review of the energy performance contract submissions. Richard, can you talk about this?
Sure. So we put out an RFP for qualifications for energy performance contractors. You'll recall that Honeywell had done fairly substantial preliminary analysis. So we put out the RFP looking for qualifications. Council modified it so that it could apply to more than several entities. The return date was yesterday, and we just received one response, which was from Honeywell. I passed it to our engineer and also to our attorney, like them to have an opportunity to review, come back with recommendations to you all, and then you can decide if you want to act on it or no. There is some urgency. If it is found to be acceptable, there is some urgency to move the project along because our infrastructure issues continue. So we've known that this is coming, and we're trying to tie a whole bunch of projects into one. So we may need to have another meeting later this month to pay bills, and also there's some outstanding items with respect to the Embassy Center that we want to resolve. So hopefully, if we can get an analysis and you all have an opportunity to review it, you'll be ready to move forward with them or no.
When you say that we only received one response, was today the deadline? And
Yesterday was, yeah,
okay.
Yesterday was the deadline.
Yesterday. Okay, so we're not going to be receiving any more responses. Thank you.
I guess I would just make the observation, if I understand this correctly, Richard, we can do some or all of this. And part of the analysis is, is this the most cost-effective way? It can very well be, but isn't necessarily. And so I think it is important that the village, that we go through line by line and look at what's being proposed to make sure that it is the right approach to some of the infrastructure improvements.
Right, and the initial the original report that you all had really was just like a broad overview from up above to see if there was potential savings here in order to make it work. Now they're going to really drill down on the areas that they think that there is opportunity. It's not to say, just as you say, Larry, it doesn't mean that you're going to have to buy kit and caboodle the whole thing, and you may decide not to go ahead with it. You're going to be able to mix and match. You may want to do more sustainable energy solutions, if you're willing to pay for that. They try to come up with something that will ultimately sort of pay for itself. It's not always possible. You have windows in the back here that had to be replaced. They're not going to pay for themselves, but it's going to be your opportunity based on the analysis to come up with a mix and match of things that you want to do. You're not bound to do anything.
And the first phase will be a very specific audit of your facilities, efficiency audit. That's the first phase. So that would be the bulk of the first month or two, getting the work done for there, and then coming back with the report to you, and then whatever potential savings you can find or pockets of money to put in place.
So we wouldn't be buying the whole, a whole package of things right now. We would be buying the audit that would allow us to make further decisions later.
Exactly. It's going to narrow. I gave you all an opportunity to look at that big thing. Now it's going to really narrow the focus, and you're going to still have options. You may have 6 or 8 items there that you can pick from. And for various reasons, you may decide to do this one versus the other one. You may decide to use electricity instead of gas. You may decide to try to put on solar panels where it works. You're going to have a number of options that you're going to decide.
Okay, that sounds like a good plan. So we'll move forward with that when you'll get back to us when it's been reviewed and you can provide us,
Yeah, I'd like to try to get it together for you. If we have to have another meeting, maybe we can look at it the next time.
Okay. Discussion item number 4 is the consider a resolution authorizing the village administrator to enter into a high visibility campaign agreement with Westchester County Stop DWI. We have a memo from the chief dated December 6, 2021. I don't think the chief is on anymore.
He's here.
He's here in person.
Oh, there he is. Okay.
Good evening, everybody. Yeah, this is just an extension of an agreement that we have done in the past. With your permission for Richard to sign, this will enable the village to be reimbursed up to $10,000 when we conduct extra enforcement for our traffic safety. There are a couple specific details that both the Governor's Traffic Safety and Westchester County Stop DWI want us to partake in throughout the year. So that's just basically a very brief background on it.
Okay, thank you, Chief. It looked like it's a very worthwhile program. So is there a motion to authorize the interim village administrator to sign the high visibility campaign agreement effective October 1st, 2021 to September 30th, 2022? Trustee Rosenberg, second. Trustee Cassell, all in favor? Okay, that passes unanimously. Next, Chief, you're still up. So we have a request from you to declare certain property to be surplus, correct?
Yes, thank you. That is, we took possession of one of our new marked police cars. I'm just looking to declare one of the old ones as surplus.
Okay. So is there a motion which authorizes the chief to declare a 2014 Ford Explorer SUV as surplus? Trustee Patino, second. Trustee Rosenberg, all in favor? That passes unanimously. Thank you, Chief. Action. Next item is the approving of the audit claims as submitted and recommended by the village treasurer. Jeff, is there anything unusual or?
No, nothing unusual.
Okay, so is there a motion approving the audit of claims as submitted and recommended by the village treasurer? Trustee, somebody. Taylor, second. Trustee Cassell, all in favor? That passes unanimously. Thank you. So I don't know if anyone, we're out now to the trustee liaison reports. I don't know if anyone's gone to anything yet or if there's had anything yet. So you're gonna have to remind me. I think, Matt, you have the traffic committee, right?
Yeah, the traffic committee met last week and mainly to discuss priorities for next year. And one of the exercises that we went through, we had a list for quite some time of 60 open projects. We are making the wise, I think, decision to pare that down to about 6 priorities for the year, so that we don't sort of stymie ourselves by having too many things to do, so nothing gets done. So that is a focus, and as soon as we have an opportunity to do so, Rob Barron, the chair of the traffic committee, and I would like to sit down with the new village administrator and discuss them so that they're visible to everybody who will have us knocking on their door over the next several months.
Okay. Who has the nominating committee?
I have the nominating committee. The nominating committee, I do not believe met since I became the nominating committee liaison.
Okay. Youth Service Council, Nicole, I don't think they've met, right?
They did. I didn't attend it. No.
Okay.
And the rec commission didn't meet either.
Planning board?
Yeah, the planning board, I guess the main decision of interest to the village would be the 156 Palisades site plan has been approved. And I believe it was also approved by AHRB, so that will probably be going forward. I also I don't know whether I should, well, I'll do it now, that the senior Christmas dinner on Friday has been postponed because of all the issues that are going on. So that will be postponed, unfortunately.
Okay. All right, I don't know, did the tree commission meet? Mike?
I think they have a meeting. Actually, I think that meeting was last night, which I could not attend if they did meet. So no, but we've had similar. It's been a lot of trees on the agendas lately. Thank you to the village planner and village attorney. I think we have some language prepared for the tree code, revised tree code, which will be on our agenda first meeting in January.
Okay, and AHRB.
I attended last night's HRB meeting. This, I don't really have much to report other than I'm getting up to speed.
Yeah. Okay. All right, I want to thank everybody. This is our first meeting together, and it was a long one, but I think we've accomplished a lot. As far as announcements go, I just want to it's been a really busy last few weeks. So we had the Hanukkah lighting where Trustee Asher and myself attended. It was very well attended at Waterfront Park. We but there was a lot of people there. There was a lot of dancing. The village helped out also by getting high up there and throwing gifts out to people. So it was very well attended. And I want to thank Rabbi Benji for inviting us. And next year, maybe Shari and I can actually light a candle. I don't know. We'll see. The Christmas tree lighting again. Donna was there, Shari was there, and some former trustees were there, and we had a great turnout for that event. The lighting went well. The village, I think, looks very, very nicely done with the lighting. I want to thank the Santa Claus who showed up and spent time listening to kids, and the fire department for opening up the firehouse and giving out the hot chocolate. That was a great event. It's a holiday tradition at the village, so thank you for that. And I also want to acknowledge the holiday hustle, which we had Trustee Patino at and Trustee Sullivan at. We had over 800 people there. It was a great day. We brought people from all over the tri-state area, really, and it's a tradition that's pretty recent. I think it's 9 years, and it's really taken off. So it's really put us on the map, so to speak. So I want to thank everyone, Justin, the Youth Service Council, again, the fire department for all the work that they've done in getting that. And the police department. I can't forget the police department for everything they've done for that. So is there anything else, any other announcements that people want to make?
Yeah, I just want to remind people, I don't know if Liz is on or not, but there's the Toys for Tots drive at Village Hall that Liz Draper has been doing for, I don't know, I think she said 38 years, something like that. So I just wanted to point that out, that is going on. Unwrapped toys delivered to Village Hall.
Yes, and I'm reminded that I forgot to mention the holiday trolley that we had on Saturday, which again, Shari and I rode that trolley with the county exec, Mary Jane Shimsky, and actually the mayor of Hastings was there, and 2 former trustees, and the trolley was packed. I couldn't believe how crowded it was. I was glad to see it, and it was good to see that people were going around from Irvington to Hastings to Dobbs Ferry. So, and I also want to acknowledge that the county exec and Mary Jane did have a public forum at the public library. I want to thank Elizabeth Hobson, the librarian, for opening up the library and to have us there. It was very informative. I also want to thank the mayor of Ardsley for appearing as well, offering us support. Trustee Sullivan was there, as well as Trustee Rosenasher, and we also had some FaceTime with the, for better or worse, with the county exec. And I think about 150 people, from what I'm told, were actually logged on at one time watching it. So that was a good event. So I don't know. I don't think we have anything else coming up. Is Donna?
Just one comment with just following up on what Donna said. I sometimes announce the Toys for Tots thing, but one of the things that folks can do in this modern era, everybody's so busy this time of year, with just a few clicks on Amazon, you can ship things to Liz at Village Hall, and she'll make sure that they get to the kids. So, being busy isn't an excuse to try and help out if you can. Get on Amazon or whatever your favorite website is, and you can have things shipped to Liz at Village Hall.
Okay. I don't think there's any, like I said, Donna has indicated that the senior luncheon has been postponed. I'm not aware of any other village events, although I'm sure I'm missing something.
Vinny, Liz, Mr. Mayor, Liz had her hand up.
Liz, go ahead.
Yes, Mayor, Board, I just, first off, I want to thank Deputy Mayor Cassell and Trustee Taylor for their support of Toys for Tots, as well as the rest of the board. And Donna was correct. This is my 38th year collecting toys. So clearly, as you all know, something I'm very close to my heart. And the collection will be going through this Friday And I have a pickup. They're picking up on Monday. So Friday, actually Sunday, I guess, will be the last day for toys to be, delivered here. But we're doing quite well so far. And I just want to give an early thank you to everybody who's contributed. And it just means the world to me. And I'll talk more about it afterwards. But, thank you all so much. I appreciate it more than you can imagine.
That's great. I didn't realize you were doing it for so long. You must have did it when you were like 2 years old. So that's great.
Is the village still having a party on Thursday?
Good question. Are we?
We are so far, yes.
Okay, most of my events have been canceled, but okay.
A masked party,
Yes, yeah.
not a masquerade, but a masked party.
Okay. All right. If there's no other business, is there a motion to adjourn this meeting? Trustee Casal, second trustee Patino, all in favor? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Happy holidays, everyone.